Observation 1. Harms. Unrestricted free trade with Mexico is significantly harmful. Subpoint A. Unrestricted free trade devastates Mexican farmers. Schneck, 2012. Changes in agricultural policies under NAFTA also had a devastating impact in Mexico. While subsidies from the Mexican government to its farmers became illegal, major subsidies from the U.S. government to its growers remained protected. After the elimination of Mexican subsidies, hundreds of thousands of family farms and small farms could no longer make a living by selling the food that they had produced. Rural communities that once survived on subsistence agriculture now face malnutrition and starvation, and Mexico is increasingly dependent on expensive food imports. 2 million farmers have been forced to leave their land, internally displaced, or forced into the migration stream toward the United States. Subpoint B. Unrestricted free trade ignores workers' rights and creates social inequity. Censul, 2012. NAFTA and its labor side agreements were sold to Mexico as a program that would help workers. Under NAFTA, however, many workers' rights are ignored, leading to social inequities. Analyst David Bacon says NAFTA sponsors promised that the treaty labor side agreement would protect workers, but it proved toothless. In 10 years, not one fired worker that has been returned to his or her job, and not one independent union has gained legal status and a contract as a result of NAFTA. Breaking strikes and unions on the border under NAFTA has become an integral part of economic development, and legal protections for workers have been swept away. Subpoint C. Unrestricted free trade destroys the environment. Warridell, 2012. Fair trade accounts for but a tiny fraction of international trade. Fairness in trade is still the exception. Yet for several decades we have been watching the deterioration of ecosystems and the gap between rich and poor grow ever wider thanks to the bulldozer that is globalized exploitation. It's time not just to hope for fair trade, but to take action individually and collectively. Subpoint D. Unrestricted free trade increases income inequality. Hing, 2010. The gap between the rich and the poor in Mexico has widened during NAFTA as well. In the early 1990s, income discrepancies between Mexico's rich and poor were already bad. Since that time, the wealthiest 10% of the population has claimed more of the share of national income. The remaining 90% have lost or experienced no change in their income share. Regional inequalities have also worsened. Observation 2. Inherency. Subpoint A. At present, the U.S. trade relationship toward Mexico is defined by the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. Valero, 2010. The North American Free Trade Agreement, in effect since January 1994, plays a very strong role in the bilateral economic relationship between Mexico and the United States. The two countries are also closely tied in areas not directly related to trade and investment, such as security, environmental, migration, and health issues. The effects of NAFTA on Mexico and the Mexican economic situation have impacts on U.S. economic and political interests. Therefore, we as the affirmative team present the following plan. The United States federal government will substantially increase its economic engagement towards Mexico by giving preference to bids from fair trade suppliers in its pro-current contracts. Fair trade goods will be defined as those certified by Fair Trade USA or Fair Trade International. Observation 3. Solvency. Fair trade offers a superior alternative. Subpoint A. Fair trade protects Mexican farmers. Berardin, 2011. Furthermore, other scholars have argued that extra income for producers and workers is just one of the many benefits that fair trade provides. For instance, scholars note that fair trade provides producers better prices, stable market links, and resources for social and environmental projects. Still, other scholars have observed that fair trade gives producers more bargaining power, even for non-trade sales, and it also provided producers with invaluable access to bank credit and market information. Subpoint B. Fair trade protects the rights of workers and ensures social equity. Lamb, 2011. Time and again, farmers say that despite all the tangible benefits of fair trade, the greatest impact is hardest to describe. Empowerment is an ugly, clunky word, but no one has found another way to encapsulate how farmers can change their positions in the supply chain, and the chance fair trade can give workers to organize into trade unions to represent their interests. Subpoint B. Fair trade protects the environment. Stenzel, 2012. Fair trade addresses the environmental leg of the triple bottom line by protecting people, plant, and animal life and the earth. For example, fair trade encourages sustainable farming practices that enrich rather than deplete the environment. The generic fair trade standard for hired labor issued by FLO regulates that the use of fertilizers and pesticides promotes biological disease control methods. Generic standards also prohibit genetically modified organisms and minimize use of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. Fair trade food products such as coffee, cocoa, and bananas are often organic. In 2008, over 48% of the coffee certified by FLO organizations was also certified as organic. This relationship between fair trade and organic certification is logical because organic standards promote similar goals: protection of the land and workers. Subpoint D. Fair trade best addresses the problem of poverty. St. Pierre, 2012. The current success of fair trade is first of all proof that trade can lift people out of poverty when conditions are fair. It is also proof for defenders of the free market that by respecting a few basic principles, it is possible to combine trade and fair. Subpoint E. Fair trade remains a market-based solution embracing trade but guarding against its excesses. Moberg, 2010. In seeking social justice and environmental sustainability, however, fair trade pursues a market-based solution to the very problems developing from free markets. As one recent observer notes, fair trade's voluntarist non-status program has been viewed by public institutions and corporations as being fundamentally compatible with neoliberal reforms. Indeed, market-based fair trade has been promoted by the World Bank as an alternative to commodity control schemes and the government-enforced labor standards. And with that, I'm open for cross-examination and further points of clarification.